That is James Mennie over at the Montreal Gazette. Jim, I guess you have power. That's a good sign.
I have power and air conditioning, light,
Wow.
and a perspective, perhaps, that's a bit broader than that of many of our listeners. So I'm sure remain hopping mad. And indeed, just to address Natasha's query earlier in the show, because I don't believe it got figured out, why your phone wasn't working to start?
Yeah.
So here's the thing. If your phone's not working, it's because your tower, which relays the signal, was affected by the power outage. They run on electricity. They have a backup battery, but it has a certain capacity. And I'm sure the amount of traffic that's going on right now, it's going to take a while for people's phones to untangle. Okay?
Okay. So that explains why cell phones would not perhaps have worked. All right, we're good with that.
Okay. So that's done. The other thing is, I've told you guys, I moved off the island a few years ago, so I'm totally unaffected by this. But when you have a large-scale outage like this, when half the island goes dark, it's because a breaker somewhere blew. And that kind of bugged me because I've been spending most of my afternoon talking my friends in the West End off the ledge because there are so many concerns. And you're raising an excellent point here about how the lights don't work. You're raising an excellent point about how people take for granted that we always have electricity. It ranges from, one of my friends called up, she's freaking out because her daughter and her grandsons are coming over from Italy. So being Italian, she only made about 7 to 8 metric tons of food, and that was in her deep. So she was concerned about that. But I'm thinking about all the people who are listening to us right now as well. When this power went out, if they were at work and they have power, but if they have an elderly parent who's living at home, and they have no EC, I'm guessing a lot of people are freaking out. I'm guessing a lot of people looked at this as a reminder how tenuous this network actually is. And if I may, I know he's new on the job. I know he's probably still going through his internship phase. But Michael Sabia, the new CEO of Hydro-Quebec, who is making $639 as $39,000 as his base salary, okay? Here's something to bear in mind, okay? The people that I'm mentioning, the people who are worried about their businesses or their families or their friends or their parents, those are the people you work for. So the idea here is perhaps the next time the Humidex goes up to 40, 41, and it will again, maybe instead of suggesting, don't worry, the network can handle it, the same way that Pierre Fitzgibbon, our energy minister, asked us to use our washing machines and dishwashers at night because he wants to conserve energy to sell it for cheap to foreign investors who want to come to Quebec. Maybe, I don't think people will be backlash. I think maybe people will understand, go easy on the consumption, because I'm pretty sure at the end of the day, guys, this is going to be the culprit, that the breaker simply blew because there was too much demand. And honestly, until we start understanding that, until Hydro-Quebec, which normally is pretty proactive in terms of its public relations, I don't think it's an expression of weakness to say, let's go easy, these are extraordinary times, and things may happen. I mean, we're lucky right now because it appears the damage wasn't that extensive, but it could just as easily have gone another way.
Yeah.
So honestly, Mr. Sabia, I know you're listening because this is Montreal now. Please take my advice to heart. Understand there are literally millions of people who depend on that utility, and it's time, given these extraordinary windy and hot circumstances, that we realize people should be kept abreast of what they can and can't do in times like these when it comes to electricity.
Look, I wonder, Jim, and I get maybe this is a hard question or impossible question to answer. So here comes Michael Sabia, good reputation for what he was involved with before the case. How much freedom does he actually have, do you think, to dictate policy or try to actually create policy?
I'm pretty sure he didn't take that job and take that salary so he could be a kind of personal valet to Pierre Fitzgibbon. My understanding is he's pretty hard-nosed. He may not be, he ain't no Nikola Tesla, but he's a pretty good administrator. And I think what happened today is a very important lesson to understand. It is literally a story. I know this is part of the criteria that we use when we decide what to talk about on air. This is a story that literally had an effect on everyone who's listening to us. Mm-hmm. Indeed, this show, and I say this with all due respect, is being done in part with the equivalent of a piece of string in a tin can over at Natasha's side. So honestly, this is an issue that requires a really humanistic approach, an understanding that, we're talking about billions of dollars and terawatts of power going here, there. The idea is to keep the lights on, the heat on, the AC on, and to keep people from not being frightened the next time the temperature goes over 36 degrees Celsius. That's all there is to it. And believe me, there are people right now, they're calling up and say, yeah, Aaron, I got power, everything's cool. Everything won't be cool until they wake up tomorrow morning and still have power. You know what it's like. The lights come back on as suddenly as they went back off. Yeah. But you're hoping that, this is going to maintain. I'm not going to be browned out. I'm not going to be knocked out again. So this is, I think, an excellent opportunity for Mr. Sabia to take a long, hard look at how Hydro-Quebec actually deals with Quebec, deals with Montreal, and make people understand. It's like I say, it's not an admission of failure to say, listen, can you guys dial it back because the temperature is going to be through the roof? Put the AC on full blast, but maybe turn some other things off because there's only so much power to go around. That's a fact. And we saw that fact played out this afternoon. So maybe instead of looking at the Hydro-Quebec as the Legault government's potential piggy bank, we should look at it for what it is, which is an essential utility for Quebec and for Montreal.
All right, Jim, before we run completely out of time, give me your take. 10 years ago, where were you when Lac-Megantic happened? Do you remember?
Yes, I was in the station. I've been called in to host for coverage. It was a Saturday, and I guess there was nobody available, but they needed someone to pick up, to pick up the stream of coverage. This was an extraordinary situation. People couldn't believe it. I had seen the images, and it was still like, where is this? Is this the far side of the world? No, it's Lac-Megantic. Yeah. And as the enormity of that disaster became clear, and the series of events that led to that disaster became known, you realized just how crazy things could be when it comes to rail traffic, which remains the biggest form of goods transport in this country. And when we hear that of the 5 recommendations that the Transport Safety Board made, only 3 have been adopted, 2 which concern overseeing of regulations and also emergency response, still up in the air. It's kind of crazy. Although they did finally decide that they should perhaps next time they're running oil, they should use thicker tanker trucks. Thank you very much. Yeah. But yeah, could it happen again? It may. We can only hope that it won't.
James Mennie, the Montreal Gazette. Thank you, Jim. Hey, Jim, we're not going to be talking for a couple of weeks, so I want to wish you all the best. Have a good summer.
All the best to you.
Thanks,
stay cool, and Natasha, I hope your phone works.
It's working on and off, Jim. It's not a good day.
Kind of like me.
Yeah. Have a good one.
Thank
you, Jim.
Guys.
All right. Take care.
You're listening to Montreal Now with Aaron Rand and Natasha Hall on CJAD 800.